You know that feeling when you're running towards something that keeps moving away from you, not literally running. Though sometimes it feels like that too. But chasing love that seems to slip through your fingers the tighter you hold it. Pursuing opportunities that vanish the moment you reach for them. Desperately trying to prove your worth to people who barely notice you exist. There's something deeply exhausting about living in constant pursuit. You wake up a mental checklist of all the things you need to chase today. The promotion you've been working toward for months. The attention of someone whose texts you read and reread. The approval of family members who never seem quite satisfied with your choices. And the strangest part? The harder you chase, the farther away everything seems to get. The more you need that job, the more elusive it becomes. The more you crave someone's love, the more they seem to pull back. The more desperately you seek validation, the more hollow it feels when you finally get it. You start to wonder if there's something wrong with you. Maybe you're not trying hard enough. Maybe you need a better strategy, a different approach, more effort, more persistence. So you double down. You chase harder. You reach further. You need more intensely. But what if I told you that somewhere in the deepest reaches of space, there are objects so powerful that they don't chase anything at all? They simply exist, and everything in the universe bends toward them. They don't pursue. They attract. They don't reach out. They draw in. They don't desperately seek. They naturally receive. What if I told you that the very act of chasing might be what's keeping you from the life you actually want? You see, we live in a culture that worships pursuit. We're told that if we want something, we should go after it. That success belongs to those who hustle the hardest, reach the furthest, want the most. But what if this entire framework is backwards? What if the most magnetic people you know, the ones who seem to effortlessly attract love, opportunities, and meaningful connections, understand something about the universe that we've forgotten? What if they've learned to stop chasing and start becoming? Today we're going to go through 5 key cosmic revelations that will completely transform how you understand attraction, desire, and the art of letting go. 1. Gravitational presence. How authentic being creates natural pull without effort. 2. The chase paradox. Why pursuit pushes away what you most want to attract. 3. Magnetic stillness. When you stop moving toward, everything moves toward you. 4. Event horizon wisdom. The point where letting go becomes infinite receiving. 5. Cosmic confidence. How black hole certainty creates irresistible attraction. Each revelation will show you not just why chasing exhausts you, but how to transform from someone who desperately seeks into someone who naturally draws life toward them. Because here's what the universe has been trying to teach us through every star, every planet, every cosmic dance we witness. The most powerful forces don't chase. They simply are, and in their being, they become the center around which everything else wants to orbit. You are not meant to spend your life running toward things that run away from you. You are meant to discover the gravitational pull of your own authentic presence. You are meant to understand that when you stop chasing love, you become lovable. When you stop pursuing success, you become successful. When you stop seeking validation, you become inherently valuable. This isn't about becoming passive or giving up on your dreams. This is about understanding the difference between desperate pursuit and magnetic presence. This is about learning to let go in a way that creates infinite pull. The stars don't chase the black hole. They can't help but be drawn to it. And you have that same potential to become so grounded in who you are, so present in your own being, that life naturally organizes itself around your gravitational field. So take a breath. Feel the weight of all that chasing lifting off your shoulders. And let's discover together what happens when you stop running toward your life and start letting your life run toward you. Number 1, gravitational presence, the power of simply being. There's something you probably notice about certain people. They walk into a room and everything shifts. Not because they're the loudest or most attractive or most successful, but because there's something about their presence that feels solid, real, unshakable. They're not performing or trying to impress or desperately seeking attention. They're fully, completely, unapologetically there. And somehow, that simple act of being present creates a kind of magnetism. People want to be near them. Conversations flow toward them. Opportunities seem to find them without any visible effort on their part. It's not that they're chasing anything. It's that their presence creates a natural gravitational field that draws life toward them. Then there are the rest of us, moving through the world like we're constantly auditioning for a part we're not sure we deserve, adjusting our personalities based on who's in the room, saying what we think people want to hear, contorting ourselves into shapes that might be more acceptable, more lovable, more worthy of attention. And the exhausting part? The more we perform, the less people seem to see us. The more we chase connection, the more isolated we feel. It's like we're broadcasting on a frequency that no one can quite tune into because we're not broadcasting our actual signal. We're transmitting what we think our signal should be. In the vast emptiness of space, black holes are among the most mysterious and powerful objects in the universe. They don't emit light. In fact, they absorb it completely. They don't reach out to grab stars or planets. They don't chase anything across the cosmic void. They simply exist with such intense gravitational presence that space and time bend around them. A black hole's power comes not from what it does, but from what it is. Its mass is so concentrated, so undeniably itself, that it creates a gravitational field powerful enough to influence objects billions of miles away. Stars don't consciously choose to orbit black holes. They can't help themselves. The sheer presence of that concentrated being creates an irresistible pull. And here's the remarkable part. A black hole never doubts its gravitational field. It never wonders if it's attractive enough to hold a solar system together. It never tries to be more dense or more massive to prove its worth. It simply is what it is, completely and without apology, and that authentic being creates natural attraction. What if your presence worked the same way? What if instead of constantly adjusting yourself to be more appealing, more interesting, more worthy of love, you learned to inhabit yourself so completely that your authentic being created its own gravitational field? This doesn't mean becoming self-absorbed or narcissistic. Black holes aren't selfish. They're simply, undeniably themselves. They have such a clear sense of their own nature that everything around them responds to that clarity. Their presence is so concentrated, so real, that it becomes an organizing force in the space around them. Think about the people in your life who have this quality. They're not necessarily the most talented or beautiful or successful, but there's something about being around them that feels like coming home. They listen when you speak. They respond from a genuine place. They seem comfortable in their own skin in a way that makes you feel comfortable in yours. They've learned something that most of us are still figuring out. That attraction isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more fully yourself. It's about inhabiting your own being with such presence and authenticity that people can't help but be drawn to your gravitational field. This might mean speaking your truth, even when it's not popular. It might mean taking up space without apologizing for it. It might mean honoring your own values, even when they don't align with what everyone else is doing. It might mean sitting with your own thoughts and feelings without immediately trying to change or fix them. The universe is constantly giving us examples of how powerful simple being can be. The sun doesn't chase the planets. Its sheer presence creates a gravitational field that keeps our entire solar system in harmony. Mountains don't reach for clouds. Their solid presence creates the atmospheric conditions that draw weather patterns to them. What would change in your relationships if you stopped performing and started simply being present? What would shift in your career if you stopped chasing opportunities and started developing such clear competence and authenticity that opportunities naturally found you? What would transform in your life if you stopped running toward love and started becoming so loving that love couldn't help but gravitate toward you? The next time you feel the urge to chase, to perform, to contort yourself into a more acceptable shape, remember, somewhere in the cosmos, objects of immense power are simply being themselves so completely that they become the center around which everything else wants to orbit. Your authentic presence is your gravitational field. The question isn't whether you have one. You do. The question is whether you're willing to stop diluting it with performance and let its natural magnetism work. Number 2, the chase paradox. Why pursuit pushes away. You probably experienced this. The moment you really desperately want something, it seems to move further away from you. The job interview you need goes to someone else. The person you're interested in starts dating your friend. The opportunity you've been working toward for months suddenly evaporates, and you're left wondering why the universe seems to be conspiring against your happiness. So you try harder. You send more follow-up emails. You text more frequently. You make yourself more available, more accommodating, more willing to bend over backwards to prove your worth. But somehow, the harder you pursue, the more elusive everything becomes. It's like you're in a cosmic game of reverse psychology, where wanting something is the surest way to repel it. And then you notice something strange. The things that flow easily into your life are often the things you weren't chasing at all. The job that found you when you weren't looking. The friendship that developed naturally when you weren't trying to impress anyone. The opportunity that landed in your lap when you were focused on something completely different. What's happening here? Why does pursuit seem to have this backwards effect, where the more you chase, the faster things run away? In space, there's a phenomenon that perfectly illustrates this paradox. When astronomers want to study distant objects, they've learned something counterintuitive. The harder you chase after faint signals, the more likely you are to lose them. If you point a telescope directly at a very dim star, you often can't see it. But if you look slightly to the side, using your peripheral vision, suddenly the star becomes visible. This happens because of how our eyes and our detection systems work. Direct, intense focus on something very delicate can actually overwhelm your ability to perceive it. The concentrated attention, the desperate need to see, creates a kind of observational pressure that makes the very thing you're seeking disappear. It's called averted vision in astronomy, and it reveals something profound about the nature of perception and pursuit. Sometimes the act of wanting something too intensely creates the exact conditions that make it impossible to receive. Your relationships work the same way. When you focus too directly, too intensely, too needily on getting someone's love or attention, you create a kind of energetic pressure around the connection. The other person can feel your desperation, your need, your willingness to change yourself to get what you want from them. And instead of feeling drawn to you, they feel the weight of your expectations and naturally start to pull back. This isn't because they're cruel or because you're unworthy of love. It's because desperate pursuit changes the entire dynamic of attraction. When you chase, you're no longer coming from a place of offering your authentic self. You're coming from a place of need, of lack, of please fill this empty space in me. And need, however understandable and human it is, doesn't create attraction. It creates obligation, pressure, the feeling of being consumed rather than appreciated. Think about the difference between being around someone who wants something from you versus someone who simply enjoys your company. The first person makes you feel drained, like you're constantly being evaluated for how well you're meeting their needs. The second person makes you feel energized, like your presence is a gift rather than a solution to their problem. The universe seems to operate on a principle of energetic reciprocity. When you approach life from a place of abundance, of having something to offer rather than something to get, you naturally attract abundance. When you approach from a place of lack, of desperately needing something outside yourself to feel complete, you attract more experiences of lack. This doesn't mean you can't want things or work toward goals. It means understanding the difference between inspired action and desperate pursuit. Inspired action comes from excitement, curiosity, a desire to contribute or create or explore. Desperate pursuit comes from fear, emptiness, the belief that you're incomplete without whatever you're chasing. One feels expansive and attracts expansion. The other feels contractive and attracts contraction. What if the next time you found yourself chasing something, a person's attention, a career opportunity, external validation, you pause and ask yourself, am I approaching this from abundance or from lack? Am I offering my authentic gifts, or am I trying to get something to fill an empty space in me? What if instead of chasing the thing you want, you focus on becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts that thing? Instead of pursuing love, you cultivated lovingness. Instead of chasing success, you developed competence and creativity. Instead of seeking validation, you practiced validating yourself. The stars that orbit black holes aren't trying to get anything from them. They're simply following their natural path through space, and the black hole's gravitational field happens to be part of that path. There's no desperation, no need, no chase, just natural movement guided by invisible forces. Your life can work the same way. When you stop chasing and start becoming, you begin to understand that attraction isn't about pursuit, it's about presence. And presence doesn't chase. It simply is, and in its being, it draws everything it needs into its orbit. Number 3, magnetic stillness. When you stop moving toward. There's a moment that comes to everyone who spent their life chasing, when you're so exhausted from running toward things that you finally just stop. Not because you've given up hope, but because you literally can't take another step. You sit down in the middle of your own chaos and decide that maybe, just maybe, you don't have to keep moving toward everything you want. Maybe what you want can come to you. It's a radical thought in a world that tells us motion equals progress, that if we're not actively pursuing our dreams, we're somehow failing at life. But there's something that happens in that moment of stillness, something the world rarely talks about. The moment you stop frantically moving toward everything, you create space for everything to move toward you. At first, it feels terrifying, like you're giving up, like you're being lazy, like opportunities will pass you by while you're sitting still. But then something strange starts to happen. People begin reaching out to you for no apparent reason. Opportunities arise from unexpected places. Solutions appear for problems you've been struggling with for months. It's as if your constant motion was creating so much noise, so much energetic static, that the universe couldn't get through to you with what it was trying to deliver. In the depths of space, there are objects called pulsars, neutron stars that spin incredibly fast, sometimes hundreds of times per second. They emit beams of radiation that sweep across space like cosmic lighthouses. But here's what's fascinating. The faster they spin, the more energy they lose. Eventually, their rotation slows down, and as they become more still, they become more stable, more predictable, more reliable as navigational beacons for spacecraft traveling through deep space. The pulsar's power doesn't come from its frantic spinning. It comes from its consistent presence. As it settles into stillness, it becomes a reference point for everything else moving to the galaxy. Your life works similarly. When you're constantly in motion, chasing opportunities, pursuing relationships, frantically trying to make things happen, you're like a pulsar spinning at maximum speed. You're expending an enormous amount of energy, but you're also becoming unpredictable, hard to track, difficult for the right people and opportunities to find. But when you slow down, when you become still enough to know who you are and what you actually value, you become a reference point. People know what to expect from you. They know what you stand for. They can find you because you're no longer a moving target. This doesn't mean becoming passive or stopping all forward motion. It means understanding the difference between frantic pursuit and magnetic presence. It means learning to move from a place of centeredness rather than desperation. Think about the people you're most drawn to. Chances are they have a quality of stillness about them. Even when they're active, they seem to know something about their own worth that doesn't require constant external validation. They're present in conversations rather than always looking over your shoulder to see if someone more important has walked into the room. They've learned the secret of magnetic stillness, that your presence becomes more attractive when it's not desperately reaching for anything outside itself. This stillness isn't empty or passive. It's full of potential, like a black hole, which appears motionless from the outside, but contains such concentrated energy that it bends space-time itself. Your stillness can be like that. Not the absence of movement, but the presence of such centered power that movement organizes itself around you. What would it feel like to trust that you don't have to chase your life? What would shift if you believed that the right opportunities, the right people, the right experiences are naturally making their way toward you, and your job is simply become still enough, present enough, authentically yourself enough to receive them? This might mean saying no to opportunities that don't truly align with who you are, even when saying yes feels safer. It might mean spending time alone to remember what you actually want, separate from what you think you should want. It might mean trusting that taking care of your own well-being isn't selfish. It's what allows you to be genuinely present for others. The ocean doesn't chase the moon, but it responds to the moon's gravitational pull with tides that have been flowing for millions of years. Mountains don't pursue clouds, but their presence creates the atmospheric conditions that draw weather systems to them. Flowers don't chase bees, but their stillness and authentic beauty naturally attracts pollination. What if your stillness worked the same way? What if instead of constantly moving toward what you want, you practice becoming so genuinely yourself, so present, so centered in your own being, that what you need naturally finds its way to you? The next time you feel the urge to chase, to pursue, to frantically make something happen, try this instead. Stop. Breathe. Ask yourself what it would feel like to trust that life is moving toward you with exactly what you need, exactly when you need it. Your magnetic stillness might be the most powerful force you never knew you had. Number 4, event horizon wisdom, where letting go becomes infinite receiving. There comes a moment in every life when you realize you've been holding on too tightly. Maybe it's to a relationship that's been over for months, but you can't accept it. Maybe it's to a dream that's causing more suffering than joy. Maybe it's to a version of yourself that you've outgrown, but are terrified to release. You know you need to let go, but there's something in you that believes holding on is the only thing keeping your world from falling apart. You're gripping so tightly that your knuckles are white. Your jaw is clenched. Your whole body is rigid with the effort of controlling what was never yours to control in the first place. And then someone tells you to just let go, as if it's the simplest thing in the world. As if releasing your death grip on everything you think you need won't send you floating into the cosmic void, untethered and alone. But what if letting go isn't about losing everything? What if it's about discovering that when you stop clutching so desperately at life, life finally has room to flow toward you? In the physics of black holes, there's something called the event horizon, the point of no return where the gravitational pull becomes so strong that nothing, not even light, can escape. From the outside, it looks like destruction, like the end of everything. But from the inside, something remarkable happens. Time slows down, space stretches, and reality itself transforms into something entirely new. Scientists theorize that crossing the event horizon isn't actually destruction. It's transformation into a completely different state of being. What looked like an ending from the outside becomes a beginning from the inside. Your moments of letting go work the same way. From the outside, from the perspective of your controlling, fear-based mind, letting go looks like giving up, like accepting defeat, like allowing everything important to slip away from you. But from the inside, from the perspective of your deeper wisdom, letting go is a moment when you cross into a completely different relationship with life. When you finally release your grip on how things should be, you create space for how things actually want to unfold. When you stop forcing relationships to work, you make room for connections that flow naturally. When you quit chasing opportunities that require you to be someone you're not, you become available for the paths that celebrate who you actually are. This is the paradox of the event horizon. What feels like the most terrifying surrender becomes a gateway to infinite receiving. Think about the last time you truly let go of something you've been holding onto desperately. Maybe it was a job that was making you miserable, or a friendship that had become toxic, or an idea about how your life was supposed to look. Do you remember that moment when you finally released your grip? How terrifying it felt, like stepping off a cliff into empty space. And then, do you remember what happened next? How quickly something new rushed in to fill the space you created. How the energy you've been spending on holding on became available for something completely different. That's event horizon wisdom. Understanding that letting go isn't about losing. It's about making space for what wants to come next. But here's what makes this so difficult. Our minds are trained to believe that control equals safety, that holding on equals love, that effort equals worthiness. We've been taught that if we want something, we should grip it tightly, never let it go, fight for it until our last breath. What we haven't been taught is that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for something is to release it. That sometimes fighting for something is actually fighting against its natural flow. That sometimes your grip is the only thing preventing what you want from flowing freely into your life. A river doesn't hold on to water. It lets it flow, and more water naturally flows into it. A tree doesn't clutch its leaves in autumn. It releases them, trusting that new growth will come in spring. The ocean doesn't hoard waves. It lets them rise and fall, knowing there are infinite waves to come. What if you trusted the same principle? What if instead of holding on to everything out of fear that nothing else will come, you practice releasing with a faith that letting go creates space for something even better to arrive? This doesn't mean becoming careless or indifferent. It means understanding the difference between loving attachment and desperate clinging. Loving attachment appreciates what's here while it's here and releases it gracefully when it's time to go. Desperate clinging tries to stop the natural flow of life because it believes scarcity is the fundamental nature of existence. But you live in a universe that's constantly expanding, constantly creating, constantly offering new possibilities. The same creative force that brings new stars into being every day is operating your life, but only when you create space for it to work. What would you release today if you trusted that letting go is not about losing, but about crossing the event horizon into a completely new way of receiving? What would you stop clutching if you believe that your open hands are more magnetic than your closed fists? The event horizon isn't the end of the story. It's where the story transforms into something you never imagined possible. Number 5, cosmic confidence, the certainty of black holes. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to move through the world with this quiet, unshakable knowing? They don't need to announce their worth or defend their choices or constantly seek reassurance that they're on the right path. There's something about their presence that just feels certain, not arrogant or closed-minded, but deeply rooted in their own truth. You probably find yourself drawn to these people, even if you can't quite put your finger on why. Maybe it's because being around them feels like being near something solid in a world that often feels chaotic and uncertain. Maybe it's because their confidence gives you permission to trust your own instincts too. And then there's the rest of us, second-guessing every decision, seeking validation for choices we've already made, constantly looking outside ourselves for confirmation that we're enough, that we matter, that we're moving in the right direction. The exhausting part isn't the seeking itself. It's that no amount of external validation ever seems to fill the space where self-certainty should live. You can collect compliments, achievements, and approval like stamps, but somehow you still wake up tomorrow needing more proof that you're worthy of taking up space in this world. What if I told you that somewhere in the deepest reaches of space, They're objects that never doubt their own existence, that never question whether they deserve to influence the fabric of space-time itself, that never seek permission to be exactly what they are. Black holes possess a kind of cosmic confidence that's almost impossible to comprehend. They don't wonder if they're dense enough, massive enough, important enough to bend light around them. They don't seek approval from nearby stars before exerting their gravitational influence. They don't compare themselves to other black holes or worry that they're not pulling hard enough. They simply are what they are, with such complete certainty that reality itself reorganizes around their presence. A black hole never announces its arrival in a solar system. It doesn't send out marketing materials or try to convince objects to orbit around it. Its very existence creates the conditions that make orbiting inevitable. Stars don't choose to be influenced by a black hole's gravity. They simply are, because that's how the universe works when something that's certain about its own nature enters the picture. This is what cosmic confidence looks like. Not the desperate need to prove yourself, but the quiet knowing that you don't need to prove anything at all. Not the loud declaration of your worth, but the subtle understanding that your worth isn't up for debate. Think about the moments in your life when you felt this kind of certainty. Maybe it was when you were doing something you truly loved, something that felt so aligned with who you are that you forgot to question whether you were good enough. Maybe it was when you were helping someone else and you stopped thinking about how you were being perceived and just focused on being useful. In those moments, you probably noticed that you became more attractive, not less. People were drawn to your energy because you weren't trying to take anything from them. You were simply being yourself so completely that your presence became a gift. This is the paradox of cosmic confidence. The less you need external validation, the more others want to give it to you. The less you chase approval, the more naturally it flows toward you. The more certain you become about your own worth, the more others recognize and reflect that worth back to you. But here's what makes developing this confidence so challenging. We live in a world that profits from your uncertainty, that sells you products to fix problems you didn't know you had, that keeps you scrolling through other people's highlight reels, comparing your inner experience to their curated presentations. Cosmic confidence requires you to step out of that entire system, to stop looking outside yourself for confirmation of what you can only know from the inside, to trust that your value doesn't fluctuate based on market conditions or other people's opinions or how well you performed yesterday. A black hole doesn't have good days and bad days where it questions a gravitational pull. Its mass is what it is consistently, regardless of what's happening around it. Its influence is constant, not because it's trying to influence anything, but because influence is what naturally happens when something knows itself so completely. What would change in your life if you approached it with even a fraction of that certainty? What would shift if you stopped questioning whether you deserve to take up space and started operating from the assumption that your existence itself is valuable? This doesn't mean becoming rigid or closed to growth. Black holes can merge with other black holes, creating something even more powerful. But they don't lose their essential nature in the process. They become more of what they are, not less. Your cosmic confidence works the same way. The more certain you become about your fundamental worth, the more open you can be to learning, growing, changing. Because when you're not constantly defending your right to exist, you have energy available for actually living. What would you do today if you moved through the world with the quiet confidence of a black hole, not needing to prove anything? Just being so completely yourself that reality naturally organizes around your presence. You came into this world as pure gravitational force, not chasing anything, not performing for anyone, just completely, authentically yourself. And everyone who encountered you was immediately drawn into your orbit. They couldn't help it. Your very presence was magnetic, not because you were trying to attract attention, but because authentic being is naturally attractive. Somewhere along the way, you learned to chase. You learned that love had to be earned, that success required pursuit, that your worth needed to be proven again and again. You started reaching for things instead of trusting they would come to you. You began performing instead of simply being. But the universe has been offering you cosmic reminders ever since. Black holes that don't chase stars but draw them into eternal orbits. Mountains that don't pursue clouds but create the conditions for weather. Flowers that don't run after bees but simply bloom so authentically that pollination becomes inevitable. The chase paradox shows us that pursuit pushes away what we most want to attract. The harder we reach for love, success, validation, the more these things seem to slip away from us. Not because we're unworthy, but because desperation changes the entire energetic equation. When we chase from lack, we attract more lack. When we offer from abundance, we attract abundance. Magnetic stillness teaches us that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is stop moving toward everything we want and create space for what we want to move toward us. In the quiet center of our own being, we discover a gravitational pull we never knew we had. Event Horizon Wisdom reveals that letting go isn't about losing. It's about crossing into a completely different relationship with life. What looks like surrender from the outside becomes infinite receiving from the inside. The moment we stop clutching desperately at what we think we need, we create space for what we actually need to flow toward us. And cosmic confidence reminds us that somewhere in the depths of space, objects exist with such certainty about their own nature that reality bends around them. Not because they're trying to prove anything, but because they've stopped questioning their fundamental right to exist and influence the world around them. You are not meant to spend your life chasing things that run away from you. You are meant to discover the gravitational pull of your own authentic presence. To understand that when you stop performing and start being, when you stop pursuing and start becoming, when you stop seeking validation and start validating yourself, you naturally become the center around which the life you want begins to orbit. The black hole paradox isn't really about black holes at all. It's about remembering what you knew before the world taught you to chase. That your simple, authentic existence is powerful enough to organize reality around it. You don't have to earn your gravitational field. You don't have to prove your right to attract good things. You just have to stop diluting your natural magnetism with desperation and let the universe respond to who you actually are. If you stop chasing today, just for one day, what do you think might naturally drift into your gravitational field? What love is already trying to find you, but can't locate you because you're constantly in motion, constantly changing yourself to be more acceptable? What opportunities are seeking someone exactly like you, but can't recognize you because you're busy pretending to be someone else? What if the very thing you've been desperately pursuing is actually pursuing you, but your chase has created so much energetic static that you can't hear it calling your name? You are not a star destined to burn yourself out reaching for distant planets. You are a gravitational force, capable of creating the conditions where everything you need naturally wants to orbit around your authentic being. The universe isn't asking you to become more worthy of good things. It's asking you to become more yourself, more present, more willing to take up the space you were born to occupy. What would happen if you trusted that your simple existence is magnetic enough to draw your life toward you? What would change if you believed that letting go creates more pull than holding on ever could? Stop chasing. Start being. And watch what falls into your orbit. The cosmos is waiting to see what happens when you remember your own gravitational pull.